The Taurus Judge versus the Smith & Wesson Governor. Let's check it out. Ten years ago, Taurus introduced the Judge. This was a 410 revolver that also shot 45 Colt. It was a great self-defense option, car defense, home defense, or for the great outdoors. Then in 2011, Smith & Wesson introduced the Governor. And this the same, 410, 45 Colt, plus 45 ACP. So we're going to take a look at both of these pistols. There are some advantages and there are some disadvantages to both pistols. And we're going to do some testing side by side and just see which one's best for you if you're even in the market for a 410 45 revolver. Before we get to the range evaluation, I did want to talk about some of the physical differences between the two pistols. Some of the pros, some of the cons, some of the things that are the same with each one. First off, they are both a double action, single action revolver. They both shoot 410 and 45 Colt. They're very popular firearms. Of course, Taurus has been selling the Judge for 10 years, which that gives this a large following. And because of the following of the Judge, it inspired Smith & Wesson to produce their own, and that's where the Governor comes from. Now, there are some big differences. One is you have a 5-round cylinder compared to a 6-round cylinder. And with the 6-round cylinder, Smith & Wesson decided to go with a 45 ACP as well. And that's one of the great things about 45 is you can put them on moon clips. And so you have a 6-round moon clip, you can drop that in. With the Taurus Judge, they do produce 5-round moon clips. Here you have your 5-round moon clips, drop them in, seem to go in nicely, but when you go to close the cylinder, it just won't close. The tolerances are just not there. I have seen some different modifications where people have modified their pistol to be able to accept 45 ACP, but Taurus does not mention that 45 ACP is okay. So for me personally, I would stay away from 45 ACP. If I was going to do that, I would go with the Governor. The Smith & Wesson does have a 2.5-inch cylinder, so you're going to be able to shoot your 2.5-inch 410 shells. The Judge has a 3-inch cylinder, so you're going to be able to shoot the 3-inch shells. So that's going to give a little bit more advantage to the Taurus Judge, even though they make models that are with the shorter cylinder. One of the things too about the shorter cylinder is that it's going to be thinner. You've got a 5-round cylinder, the thinness here compared to the thickness here. In fact, the cylinder is 1.7 inches, almost 1 3/4 inches, while the Taurus Judge is just 1.5 inches. So about a 1/4 inch difference between the two. But one of the things I want to talk about the Taurus line of 410 45 revolvers is that there are 13 models. And there's a lot of variation from 2.5 inch to 6.5 inch barrels. They have the 2.5 inch cylinder and the 3. They do have the Public Defender, which is a polymer framed pistol. Now, one of the things about this Taurus is it is a steel framed, while the Smith & Wesson is a scandium alloy frame, aluminum alloy. So the weight difference is also going to come into play. Your Smith & Wesson is lighter with the all steel, and this is all stainless steel, whereas the cylinder and the barrel are stainless on the Governor. The Smith & Wesson comes in at 30.1 ounces, the Taurus Judge 37 ounces. So there is quite a bit of difference between the two. Again, there are a lot of different models of the Judge, so that's kind of, we're just really going with this particular model. The front sights are different. We have a tritium post on the front of the Governor. We have a fiber optic post on the Taurus. But the rear sights are the same with a grooved notch. The cylinder latches have just a different style to them. One thing to note is that on the Taurus there is less room when you're going all the way forward. It almost butts up right here, but it doesn't quite. With the Smith & Wesson you have just a little more play here. Now, while both are large frame revolvers, because of the 6 rounds that go in the Smith & Wesson, it makes it thicker in this area. With the Taurus it's a little bit thinner, so it just makes it a little more narrow. To me, a little more pointable in some ways. But again, it's up to just this model. Taurus makes models that are kind of close to this. Smith & Wesson does make a model that's in a silver nickel finish, but then again with the stainless cylinder and barrel. Both are offered with Crimson Trace lasers. There's a lot of different holster options out there for both. So there's a lot of different aftermarket support because Taurus has been selling these solo really for about 5-6 years, and then when Smith & Wesson got on the bandwagon, they already saw the success of the Taurus, so Smith & Wesson was able to capitalize on it. A little bit of detail of the trigger pull here on double action. It's a really heavy double action trigger pull, but it's very smooth and very crisp. On the Governor, double action trigger pull, it's smooth, but there's a couple of little hitches. Just variations in the pull, very slight, but the Taurus is definitely a little smoother with the double action trigger pull. Single action trigger pull, not bad. It's the weight, you can feel the weight. On the Governor, single action, man, that is smooth. That's just crisp. The single action on the Governor is way superior. I would say the double action on the Governor is good, but it's not as good as the Taurus. But the single action, it's without a doubt. The Smith & Wesson is just better in the single action. Double action trigger pull on the Taurus. 9 pounds 13 ounces. 9 pounds 7 ounces. 9 pounds 10 ounces. Smith & Wesson Governor. 10 pounds 7 ounces. 10 pounds 14 ounces. 10 pounds 8.5 ounces, about 10.5 pounds. So you have about a 3/4 pound difference heavier on the Governor. Single action trigger pull on the Judge. 4 pounds 10 ounces. 5 pounds 1 ounce. 4 pounds 12 ounces. As far as the Governor, single action trigger pull, 4 pounds, 0.1 ounce, 4 pounds 2 ounces, 4 pounds 2.9 ounces. A much lighter single action trigger pull, which is going to give you better accuracy at the range. Now we wanted to do a side-by-side comparison at the range, and so I got Rodney from the NC Hill channel, and we're going to do some shooting, just some evaluation of the trigger and just how the gun, the ergonomics of the gun, how it feels, and just some different insight. But really this gun is an aluminum alloy frame, which is the only offering that Smith & Wesson has. And then we have the Taurus Judge, which is a steel frame. So it's not necessarily going to be apples to apples, but Taurus does offer their Public Defender, which is a polymer frame, so it's going to be more in line with the alloy frame of the Smith & Wesson. As far as trigger pull evaluation, we did a lot of dry firing ahead of time, both in single and double action. With the Judge, the double action trigger pull was smoother, don't you think?
Yes, with the double action, I preferred the Judge over the Governor.
Just a little smoother. Now, with single action, the Governor was definitely a better single action trigger pull.
The Governor breaks a little bit crisper, and I like the position of the trigger when it's in single action over the Judge.
Right, so kind of a draw. The thing is, a lot of times you're firing for more target in single action, so that's going to give a big plus for single action. But for quick follow-up shots, especially in a self-defense situation, you've got a very smooth double action trigger. Not that the Governor did not have a pretty smooth double action trigger. Now there's definitely two totally different style grips on here. You have the rib version with the Judge. You have more of a molded rubber version with finger grooves. I think one of the things that the Taurus does, it fits to your hand well, and when you push it you can kind of adjust your grip, but it has those vents and those fins to kind of move it around. With the Smith & Wesson Governor, when you grab it, it's the same grip every time, and it's a great grip. So I think it's really more of a matter of taste.
Yeah, with the Judge, every time you grip it, the way the fins can either go up or down. So as you grip it, you may grip it one time and it feel one way, grip it different, and it feels another. It seems to be a beefier grip. So somebody with like short fingers or a smaller hand, I think the Governor is more suited for that. But they're both excellent grips. It's personal preference.
Yeah, I think that the Smith & Wesson, the grip on it is, especially if you have smaller hands, it's a big gun, but I think you do seem to be able to control it.
It's a bigger gun, but you have the finger grooves and you get a consistent grip every time.
But I think the cushioning effect is nice on the ribs. So, but both of them were, I mean, they were very easy to shoot. The grips are good for shooting either one of these, but I think it's a different kind of style. One thing the Governor does do well is 45 ACP, and we have these moon clips. Oh yeah.
But one thing you can do with the Judge is fire 3-inch 410 shells.
We're going to shoot some of this Federal Premium, and this is the 410 handgun. It's 2.5-inch, 4 pellets, and it's a triple-aught buck. We're just going to check the pattern between the shorter barrel in the Governor and the longer barrel in the Taurus. And we're shooting about 15 yards. First group with the Governor, 4 rounds right here. What we did, ended up shooting high on that first group, so we just didn't count it, or we shot again. And so we have here, 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 and here with the 3-inch barrel. So you can see it's actually a little more spread with the 3-inch barrel. We're going to try that again. Governor here, these three are pretty close. Of course, that has to do with the ammunition coming out. So, and actually that time the Taurus had a little bit of a better group. Not by much, but as you can see, just a little bit. This is 15 yards, so you can see already that it's starting to spread. So even up close, you're going to get a little bit of spread right up front. And of course, the farther out you go, the more spread you're going to have. With the 3-inch shells, he was still getting pretty much the same group, same type groups. I'd say that's about 3.5 inches. When you say 3.5 inches, yep. There's the difference. And here it is coming out the other side. I wanted to show this because if you're shooting through walls in your home or shooting around walls, it can go right through it. Drywall, just the same. Now, sight picture is definitely different. With the fiber optic on the front of the Judge, in daylight shooting, it was much easier to pick up. It was easier to get on target. The sight just glowed in the front, and then you had that notch in the back. Here with the Judge, you have that notch in the back, but you have a tritium insert in the front, which it still makes a good contrast, especially with the black. But it's not quite as easy to pick up as it was that fiber optic. But one thing about that is for night shooting or for self-defense, I think that the the tritium bead is actually going to give you a little more of an advantage. But really the sight picture is pretty close. I mean, you got your notch in the back, you've got a post at the front. Here it's either a night sight or you have that fiber optic. So, you know, it's a matter of preference or what you're going to use this pistol for. If you're in the woods, you're on a hike or a hunt and you want something by your side, the fiber optic is going to show up well, but low light conditions, you're going to have a little more of an advantage with the tritium bead or tritium post. Taurus right here, Judge right here, pretty solid groups. But again, shooting, well, this is actually 2 inches high. So shooting 2 inches high at 10 yards. This was one that it shot before I was really ready. It was definitely a flyer. But even then, I mean, this was all 6 rounds, this was 5. Easy to see targets. Now, one of the great things about either one of these pistols is just the array of different 410 ammunition, especially designed for the handgun. Remington, Federal, Winchester, Hornady, I mean, they all make really great rounds. And then there's a lot of different just standard 410 loads that are out there. I will say that the handgun ammunition performs better. It just performs better than just the standard ammunition because it's designed and formulated for a handgun. But with all the different choices, whether it's you know, your 45 Colt, your 410s, your 3-inch, your 2.5 inch, your 45 ACP, there's just a lot of things out there that really lend themselves to a lot of fun and to make both of these revolvers very versatile. Guys, I'll tell you, really for home defense or a self-defense option, it's a simple gun. You just load and pull the trigger. You can interchange your centerfire pistol calibers with the buckshot or the self-defense loads or whatever you want to use. It just is a really versatile gun. I really love that it's part of my collection, and I've really enjoyed getting these out and shooting them. Are they super practical for every purpose? No. But do they fit a number of niches? Yes. Now, yes, there are a lot of different holster options out there. For me, Jackson Leatherworks, I really appreciate John's craftsmanship bringing in these holsters. This is a pocket holster, and it works. And it's just great. I love this. Or for a pack or whatever you're going to do, you can slide this in. Here we have a standard, and I say standard, this is a beautiful leather holster with the basket weave pattern, and just for your belt. So there's so many different options and ways to go. But also having some nice leather for your handgun always works well, and I highly recommend Jackson Leatherwork. But one of the big things I want to talk about is the price. You have a Smith & Wesson, you know, made in the USA, you know, been in business for 159 years, and just known for quality. Then you have the Taurus, which is made in Brazil. They have been in business for for decades themselves, and have produced a really good line of reasonable revolvers. But the quality of the Smith & Wesson is superior, hands down. even though this Taurus is very well finished. But as far as price goes, the Smith & Wesson runs $869 retail. The Taurus Judge is $700.64 retail. So immediately we have a $169 difference in price. But the big thing is the Smith & Wesson is a little more difficult to find. And I found one on Bud's Gun Shop. It was $731. The Taurus Judge, this model at Bud's Gun Shop, was $462. So you're looking at a pretty significant price difference. Now let's look at the pros and cons between the two pistols. First off, we have 6 rounds with the Smith & Wesson Governor. We have 5 rounds with the Taurus Judge. We do have the capability of shooting 45 ACP, whereas we don't with the Judge. But we do have the capability of 3-inch shells with the Taurus and only 2.5-inch for the Smith & Wesson. We do have the scandium alloy frame, which makes it really lightweight. Compared to a polymer frame on the Taurus, definitely the scandium is a nicer pistol. The weight is really low. But then of course we have the stainless steel, the full size, and when going to the range and shooting, especially as a range gun, it would be really nice to have that stainless full size. So a little less recoil than the Smith & Wesson. The grips are very different, totally different, but yet they both have qualities that are really going to be personal preference. The ribs here, they kind of mold to your hand. The grip here is consistent every time you grab it. It is a Hogue grip, by the way, and very well known for quality. You have fiber optic versus tritium, so more for self-defense, night shooting, more for range, or quick target acquisition. The single action trigger on the Smith & Wesson is better. The double action on the Taurus is smoother. The Smith & Wesson Governor is coming in at 30 ounces, whereas the Taurus is coming in at 37 ounces, yet you can get different models. Again, 13 models of the Taurus, 2 models of the Smith & Wesson. Price is definitely one of the biggest factors between the two pistols. The quality is definitely with the Smith, so the price obviously reflects it. If you're willing to pay $230 more for the Governor for a higher quality pistol, then I would definitely recommend you buying the Smith. This was what I bought first. The Smith & Wesson was the first pistol, and then because I really enjoyed the Smith & Wesson so much, I wanted to see what the Taurus Judge was all about. And guys, I'm telling you, I'm just really glad that I've got the Taurus. I've really enjoyed shooting it. It's 2 separate feeling guns. These are both in the same category, but they're 2 completely different experiences. And I don't know how to explain that. But the Taurus Judge is really, to me, a utilitarian workhorse. I wouldn't mind using this as a car gun. This actually is my shop personal defense piece. I keep it mounted right in the shop if I ever need it. If I'm in the shop and I have some kind of issue, this is my self-defense go-to. With the Governor, this is just, if I was going out into the woods, if I was going on a hike or whatever, and I wanted something like this, I would go with the Governor. So, there's 2 different purposes here, but again, the price is very large, and you have to decide, is the price worth going for a little more quality than the Judge? One of the big things about these 2 pistols, too, is they have a limited lifetime service policy on both of them. And I've heard some complain about the Taurus customer service, but I have had experience with Taurus customer service years ago, and it was excellent. It was just excellent. Smith & Wesson is definitely excellent. So to me, you're not going to go wrong with either one as far as having something done if you have a problem. With me, both of these pistols have been nothing but exceptional, and I've just totally enjoyed it. There are some other reviews out there that compare these 2 pistols, and I encourage you, before you make a choice, to go check those out. I also have 2 separate reviews of each of these, and I'll have those linked down in the description below. So whether you're going with the Governor or you're going with the Judge, both are excellent revolvers. Yes, they're limited in their purpose, but man, they sure are a lot of fun. I want to thank Rodney from the NC Hill channel for coming down, helping me out with the range setup, and giving me another set of eyes and some evaluation on his viewpoint of these 2 pistols. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. Woo! And did I introduce you? What did I say?
My bestest friend ever. At least you didn't call me Robbie Wade.
Well, that's next.
Beard, left hand, Robbie.
Yeah, Robbie, short Robbie.
I got you, short Robbie. I always thought you'd be tall.
And I want to thank Robbie Wheaton for. And I want to thank Rodney for coming down and with the. I want to thank Robbie to these two pistols, and so I don't, can I just stop there? Okay, let's do it again.
For all the hungry kids in Africa, waste not, want not.
How is it?
Hey, that's pretty good gallop right there.
Watch out for the shot. BBs. We're like trying to hold our guns up like this.
Okay, I'm trying to hold it non-threatening. Right. Because I don't want to scare nobody.
Then the Smith & Wesson Governor. And Robbie Wheaton.
Robbie Wheaton here. Robbie Wheaton.
One thing the Governor does do well is 45. You can see on the camera. Oh. We're going to shoot some of this 410 handgun personal defense from Federal Premium. And this has some, what the heck does it have?
It's got some stuff in it.
That's good.